I can't give you that again. That was natural. It's so good. It's really good. Hey everyone, today we're going to make a really delicious Chinese home-cooked recipe, Chinese beef and egg stir fry. Now, if you've ever had steak and eggs, you know that beef and eggs go really well together. This recipe is sort of gives you that sort of like everyday luxury feeling, but you only need about 6 ounces of flank steak. You need 6 eggs. They combine in this like really silky and delicious stir fry that is delicious over rice. It comes together super fast because this recipe is super easy. So let's talk about cutting flank steak. Flank steak is actually a cut of beef where it's really obvious to see the grain, and that's like sort of like the lines of muscle in the meat. So you can see here that they're sort of running this way. So you're gonna wanna cut against that grain. That's gonna give you the most tender beef because you're sort of cutting those fibers shorter, which makes the meat easier to chew. The piece I have here is actually kind of nice because it's the end and it's sort of a triangle. And that means that I'm going to slice it this way and then also this way. And that's gonna give me slices that are the right width. So about like 2.5 to 3 inches wide. And I'm gonna slice on a fairly sharp angle. That's gonna give me wider slices. It just like makes it like, so it's not, instead of being like strips, it's actually slices. And you wanna slice it pretty thin. And now this side is getting kind of long, so I'm gonna switch to this side. I'm still cutting against the grain, but I'm doing so on an angle. Now these pieces are getting short, so I'm gonna change the direction again. And as the piece gets thinner, you're going to have to sort of cut like on less of a sharp angle, so just keep going. Okay, and now that I'm here, I'm gonna go this way. Still against the grain. But you see how I sort of manipulated the meat as I was cutting it so that I could get slices that are all of a similar size. Okay, that's fine. Somebody's gonna get this little fun triangle chunk. It's good. And now we're gonna marinate it. I will be velveting this beef. That is what's going to make the beef really juicy and silky, and it's gonna really like provide this like coating around it that protects it from the high heat of the wok and keep it really, really juicy and tender. Recently, my dad did a beef velveting video showing the pros and cons of the shortcut velveting method and then the beef washing method. In this recipe, we're using the shortcut method, but you can head over to that video to see the pros and cons of each method. My parents do a little taste test and it's a fun watch. So I'm gonna add some salt and some baking soda, only 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda. This is going to tenderize the meat. Cornstarch, sesame oil, a teaspoon of neutral oil. We're using avocado oil, but you could use vegetable oil or canola. And then a teaspoon of oyster sauce. So I like to measure the oyster sauce after I've measured the oil because as you can see, it just falls right out. Finally, a couple tablespoons of water. And now I'm just gonna mix everything together. And I wanna mix it until everything's distributed and incorporated and until the meat has absorbed all that liquid. Which you'll see there's some liquid there at the bottom. By the time I'm done mixing, it will all have absorbed into the meat. Okay, now the eggs. So I'm gonna crack 6 eggs into a bowl. Try to crack your eggs on a flat surface, so I'm doing it on this like flat side of the bowl, but you can also just do it right on the counter. That gives you like a cleaner break for the egg and it doesn't push the shell into the egg. And now we'll season them. To the eggs, we're gonna add salt, white pepper, sesame oil, and shaoxing wine. So if any of you have heard the adage that salting your eggs before they're cooked makes them tougher or something like that, we have not found that to be true. It's totally fine to season and salt your eggs. And in fact, we usually do before we scramble them. So you're gonna beat the eggs really well. You wanna make sure that the whites and the yolks are really well incorporated because you don't want streaks of egg white in the dish. The next step is to make a cornstarch slurry. So I have a couple tablespoons of water here and I'm gonna add the cornstarch. and mix it until it's really well incorporated. And adding this to the eggs is going to make them really, really silky and tender. This is actually a Chinese restaurant trick for very silky eggs. And that sort of contrast between the silkiness of the eggs and the beef is really what you're looking for here. So you just want to beat the eggs and mix in the cornstarch. That cornstarch trick is also great for your breakfast scrambled eggs, and we actually have a post on that, which we will link in the description box below. The next thing I'm gonna add is just a scallion chopped. So I'm just gonna chop that real quick. And dump those in there. And that is it, we're ready to cook. I've heated the wok until it's slightly smoking. You can see the smoke coming off. And I'm gonna add 4 tablespoons of oil. It sounds like a lot, but you really need that much to cook the eggs properly. So I'm gonna add the beef in. I'm gonna spread it out in one layer, and we're gonna let it sear. And allowing it to sear undisturbed is what's gonna make it nice and brown and caramelized. Okay, I think we're good. So now I'm gonna flip the pieces. All right, so I'll stir fry it. And now I'm gonna add the egg. So I'm just gonna beat the egg a little bit. It's been sitting here for a little bit, so I'm just gonna rebeat it. Now I will add it in. And now I'm just gonna sort of very gently, and I'm gonna gently push the egg around the wok. So I've adjusted the heat. I turned it down because I didn't want the eggs to brown, but now I'm gonna turn it back up to speed up the cooking process a little bit. But you kind of want this sort of like silky egg strands thing going on. You don't want the eggs to brown. And so I'm scooping and flipping. And that's basically it. It is done. I will scoop it out. We can garnish with a few more scallions. This is my mom's recipe, and I think that when she made it, it looked a little bit better, but I think maybe I cut the beef a little thin, but it still tastes good. So good. It's crazy how good it is. Yum. Well, I would say that this is one of those, like, at least now with where egg prices are, it's a little bit of one of those everyday luxury things because you are using 6 eggs here, but you're also stretching a pretty small piece of flank steak. So you get to be like, ooh, we're like really living it up with these delicious eggs and this steak. And ultimately, you've kind of stretched it. And if you serve it with a vegetable, you have this with a vegetable that's like dinner for 2 or 3 people. So good. So that's it. Really delicious Chinese beef and egg stir fry. For the full recipe with all of the measurements, check out thewalksoflife.com. We have the link in the description box. Okay, let's get that kimchi. You want some beef and egg? Beef and egg and kimchi.